them. Mr. Speaker, the disciplinary process should never be used to punish the political speech or viewpoints of a member of this chamber just because the majority disagrees.
And that is Maryland Democrat Jamie Raskin opposing a censure resolution against Michigan Democrat Rashida Tlaib.
Punishment of political viewpoints will mean that members will be censured just for being in the minority rather than in the majority. And that will come to stifle our dialogue and haunt all of our work.
So this is arguably one of the most important House floor speeches of the year, and here's why. You see, Jamie Raskin disagrees with Tlaib's incendiary remarks criticizing Israel. I disagree with Tlaib as well, but that isn't the issue. The issue is whether Congress should be able to punish a lawmaker in the minority for views that the majority doesn't like. Jamie Raskin pointed to the extremely controversial views stated by the new Republican House Speaker, Mike Johnson.
For example, the good Speaker of the House, who is my friend from the Judiciary Committee, has taken positions in the past arguing that sex between consenting gay adults should be a crime, that the Supreme Court was wrong to strike down sodomy laws in Lawrence versus Texas, and wrong to give gay people the right to marry in Obergefell, a right that he said is, quote, the dark harbinger of chaos and sexual anarchy that could doom even the strongest republic. Now, the vast majority of Americans reject these positions as extreme in public opinion polls and believe all citizens should have the freedom to pursue their own love lives and to marry. If the House majority changes hands, should we actually censure the former Speaker of the House for his constitutional apostasy and thought crimes against the rights of millions of Americans? I sure hope not, because the gentleman from Louisiana is absolutely entitled to his political and religious views, no matter how far outside the constitutional and American mainstream they are. Under the First Amendment, extremism is in the eye of the beholder.
And Raskin noted there is already a remedy for punishing lawmakers who engage in speech that is extreme or objectionable. It's called an election. And every 2 years in the U.S. House, voters get to decide who they want as their elected House representative. And Raskin noted that the Republican justification for censuring Tlaib is filled with hypocrisy.
If we say the gentle lady can be punished because her views of history are wrong, as I heard my friend say, can we then punish members of this body who refuse to vote to take down in our halls statues of members of Congress from the 19th century who joined the Confederacy and committed treason against the Union? People like John Breckinridge, a former vice president and U.S. senator who was expelled from the Senate after he defected to the Confederacy? Should we use the disciplinary process to impose historical orthodoxy? If anything, there's a stronger constitutional case for punishing the 120 members of the House who voted against taking down statues of Confederate traitors, because multiple provisions of the Constitution explicitly forbid and punish participation in insurrection. Do members who voted that way want to risk being censured in the future by establishing that divergent minority views on history are a legitimate matter of institutional discipline?
And never mind the GOP lawmakers who supported keeping Confederate statues. Raskin pointed to the even bigger elephant in the room: Republican lawmakers who support wild conspiracy theories that ignore reality and undermine the institutions our society depends on. Yes, Raskin spoke about the supporters of the January 6th insurrection and lawmakers who voted against certifying the 2020 election. But first, Raskin addressed some of the unhinged conspiracy theories about mass shootings.
And what about the members who defended conspiracy theorist Alex Jones and stated that Sandy Hook and Parkland mass murders of dozens of school children were staged by Hollywood to generate support for gun safety? That's not even a matter of opinion, but adjudicated positive fact. And still, the Constitution protects your right to be wrong about facts unless you're deliberately defrauding or cheating someone out of something like money or campaign contributions. And what of all of those members who have followed the former president in advancing the big lie that he actually won the 2020 election? Should we convert the 60 federal and state court decisions rejecting claims of election fraud and corruption into discipline and punishment of members who still cling to that view?
The answer to the rhetorical question should be no, even if you strongly disagree with a lawmaker's speech. And I certainly disagree with Rashida Tlaib's views on Israel, and I disagree with countless Republican views on all sorts of things. We should be protecting and promoting our Constitution's First Amendment, not using the U.S. House to tear it down.
Now is a moment when we will get to see who in the House of the Representatives believes in the freedom of speech, even the speech they hate, versus those who want to impose a new political straitjacket of cancel culture on America and Congress. I reserve.
Gentleman from Maryland reserves. Gentleman from Georgia.
The Democratic cheers for Raskin were understandable. He delivered a remarkable and important House floor speech. Sadly, his argument and his principles seem to go over the heads of many Republicans, many of whom cannot argue and have no principles. Nearly all of the Republican lawmakers pushed forward with their censure resolution. One of the Republicans, Georgia's Marjorie Taylor Greene, calls Tlaib a terrorist. To be clear, Greene has the right to say whatever nonsense she wants, just as you and I have the right to condemn Greene. And in my view, when you call a peaceful lawmaker a terrorist, you diminish the term terrorist and diminish the significance of actual terrorism and the violence that they engage in. But that's obviously too much for Greene to understand. Still, kudos to Maryland Democrat Jamie Raskin for at least trying to use thoughtfulness and intelligence on the House floor. Free speech is a bedrock of American society, and while I may detest and literally feel like throttling some people who have abhorrent and obscene views about me, my religion, or my politics, the fact is I will fight for the free speech rights even of people I disagree with. All of us should. But our society is sadly moving away from that, led by the hypocrisy of many conservatives who want free speech, but only for themselves. By the way, Donald Trump's lawyer, Lena Habba, recently exercised her free speech rights on the New York courthouse steps, and her meltdown was epic.
But I was told to sit down today. I was yelled at, and I've had a judge who is unhinged slamming a table. Let me be very clear. I don't tolerate that in my life. I'm not going to tolerate it here.
Check out that video at the link below. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.